Now, this is something I learned in McKinsey, and it was fundamental to what I learned. Strategy consultants are known to be effective and articulate communicators. They also communicate with senior leaders across businesses, public organizations, and governments. What makes them so? And how can you do the same to power up in your career and life? The answer is answer first communication, also known as top-down communication or the pyramid principle. Now you can look up all these words and you'll see lots of articles online about them. But here's, in a broad sense, with an example of what it means. If I were to ask you the question of, hey, have you had your morning coffee yet? You could answer the question in two ways. I actually wanted to get my regular Starbucks and I stopped to get my flat white, but turns out that coffee machine was down, would you believe it? So then I stepped over to the next shop and I found a Costa, fortunately, thank goodness. They had the same flat white I typically get. And so yes, I have had my coffee, thanks for asking. That is an example of bottom-up communication. Hey, have you had your morning coffee yet? Yes, I have, thanks for asking. I actually intended to get my regular Starbucks, but ended up getting a Costa instead, but it did just fine. This is top-down or answer-first communication. What's the difference? The difference is you answered the core question first. So you gave the main point or the main assertion upfront, and then you followed it up with supporting evidence or with some elaboration. Why is this important? It keeps the conversation focused. It prevents a situation where your audience is wondering, wait a second, so what's your point? It respects the fact that your audience has limited time. And so if somebody were to step out in the middle of your presentation or to not listen to the rest of your sentence or the rest of your discussion, they know exactly where you stand and what your perspective is. It also frames the discussion. So let's say you start the discussion by anchoring the conversation in your perspective. Now you've really framed the rest of the conversation so that everything else, every aspect of discussion is in context to what you said. So that's also a power move. The one thing to call out, of course, is you need to have your supporting evidence quickly following the assertion. So if somebody asks you, hey, what's your view on this? You might turn around and say, my view is this, XYZ, whatever your view is. And here's why. Having that evidence-based mindset is so critical to being a strategy consultant and being an effective professional in any way. How can you use this in business? So let's say you have to give a presentation at work. You could either start by saying, here are the different facts, or the analysis and data, and you can then say, and therefore, here's what I recommend. Or you can start the discussion by saying, the problem statement was this, here's what I recommend, this is my main assertion, and here is why. So when you do that, you've immediately communicated your core point of view, you've gotten the attention of the audience, you've focused their time, so even if they don't listen to the balanced 30% of the discussion, they've already understood what your core perspective was. And that's key when you're talking to senior stakeholders like CEOs. Now, there are some watch outs. There are some situations where you might not actually benefit from using this. What are those? Let's say you're giving a presentation, a heterogeneous group, includes people from different departments or from different levels of seniority who might not fully understand the problem you're trying to solve or what you're trying to say. In that case, you might be better off using bottom-up communication because that makes people feel like you're leading them to the answer. Now, that's helpful in some situations where either the audience and you don't really know each other very well, your role in the organization isn't as well established, so you're trying to be cautious. However, if you're communicating with senior leaders and if you're trying to position yourself as a senior leader, then do answer first. Even in your personal life, it's quite effective to actually start with your core perspective or core point of view. You don't just ramble on and on and on and people are wondering, wait, what is she saying again? Or what's her main point? Or what's his point? And a lot of the time people will say facts, 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 facts. But what's really missing is so what about that? And what's the implication on our lives? So if you start with the implication, or if you start with the answer and then have the facts to support it, that's really effective because you have positioned yourself as a thought leader in some way. The other day I was reviewing some tweets and I'm trying to become more active on Twitter slowly. The format was actually the same, where the tweet starts with the main point and then it goes to say a thread, and then in the thread you have the substantiating evidence. And so you really think about your main point and then it has to stand on some legs. This is typically counterintuitive. So why don't you give this a try? Try to use this top-down communication in your day-to-day life. It might actually do wonders to how you feel and how you seem, both competent and confident. All the best, and I look forward to hearing from you in the comments. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching. Bye.